Winter is on its way. People in the Nordic countries are preparing for what is to come. One of them is Ossi, the helicopter pilot. If he doesn't get his job done, thousands of people will have problems. You can trust winter. Each autumn, as long as people have lived here in the Nordic countries, winter has returned. Sometimes silent and beautiful, other times with great force. Winter clears the deck and creates new landscapes around us and inside us.
Oh, shit!
We love winter, and we hate it. It can present us with meters of snow and temperatures down to 50 Celsius below, but it can also be nothing but mild, wet, and windy. We who live here have familiarized ourselves with Snowhow. We've learnt to live with winter, and we know that it can sometimes be fatally dangerous. In this series, we will see how the Nordic region emerged in the distant past from winter's ice crystal grip. And we'll try to understand what is happening to winter today.
Yeah, this is very interesting.
Should get colder.
So yes.
What does winter do to us living this far north? How do we deal with and relate to winter conditions? And how do we meet winter when it comes?
Aperi.
Ossi Lukkarila prepares for winter from above. It's easier for him to access the areas where he works from the air, and he can work much more efficiently this way.
Runsas lumentulo ja puihin kasautunut tykkylumi häiritsevät vakavasti sähkönjakelua Pohjois-Karjalassa.
Over 15 000 boliger er uten strøm på Sør- og Estlandet fortsatt etter snøfallet.
Tusentals hushåll saknar fortfarande ström efter stormen Alfrida. I Venjaträsk har man haft 18 strömavbrott bara i december.
A single tree can collect as much as 3 tons of snow. Some trees crumble under the pressure. We need electricity in these northern regions if we're going to get through the winter. Electricity for lighting and heat, for street lights and for phones. Whether we live in a city or a small village, life would be difficult without electricity. Ossi's job is to reduce the chances of power cuts during the winter. There are several 100,000 kilometers of power lines throughout the Nordic region. Today, Ossi is going to clear a route near Ranua, a distance of about 50 kilometers. The weather's good as of now, but the weather forecast is not so positive. Flying a helicopter is a challenge in itself, but beneath this helicopter hang 9 rotating saw blades. this will be a completely different challenge.
Siinä ei hirveästi ole mitään tekemistä helikopterin lentämisen kanssa. Helikopteri on väline, millä mä pääsen sahaa ilmassa ja ajan sitä sahaa.
A tiny mistake from Ossi can disrupt an entire community. But he does his job well. What he gets done in a couple of hours would take several weeks to accomplish on the ground. He pays close attention to his position and the weather, and to the snow that's on its way. When the helicopter is exposed to strong gusts of wind, Ossi has to be extra careful. It'd be bad enough were he to cut the power line, but it would be really dangerous to get the saw stuck in a tree while the helicopter is flying forwards. That could be disastrous. Ossi has reacted in accordance with the rule book. When the snowfall gets too heavy, he returns to safety back to base. In the course of a few morning hours, he has cleared several miles of the power line corridor, but most of the work remains. And as soon as the weather permits, Ossi heads out again. Every mile he gets cleared will make the power supply more reliable for thousands of people now that winter is approaching. It'll bring electricity for lighting and power for heat. With 9 rotating saw blades under his belly, he speeds up the winter preparations.
Se on vähän niin kuin videopeli ajelisi tuolla ylhäällä, että se on tosi nastaa. Ehkä sen suola on tuossa sahaamisessa, että se on niin vaikeaa.
Over 27 million people live in the Nordic countries, if we include everything: Finland, Sweden, Norway, Iceland, and Denmark with all its possessions. The winter is not the same in Copenhagen as in Sundsvall, Reykjavik, Tana, or Tampere, but everyone has to relate to it. One of the things that makes winter in the Nordic region unique is that the entire region lies north of 54 degrees latitude. So far north, the seasonal variations are immense. The amount of daylight, temperature, and weather conditions are always changing. If you go the equivalent distance south, the variations are also immense, but very few people notice. Hardly anyone lives here. Here the open sea goes all the way around, all the way south to Antarctica. But among the countries in the north, the Nordic countries stand out in a different way. This is due to the Gulf Stream, which carries warm ocean water north along the coast. The ocean temperature is best felt along the Norwegian coast, but the warmth also reaches Sweden and Finland due to the wind from the west. This slightly milder temperature provides open, ice-free sea and livable conditions for people far further north than the latitude might indicate. But if you're going to live here, you have to be able to endure change. Change between light and dark, between warm and cold, between sun and ice, and green pastures. Always changing. Even the landscape itself changes when the ice demands it.
Nå er det fint her.
Spring is beautiful by the Sognefjord in Norway. Sigrid Ørlmheim and her husband Endre are happy about their blooming fruit trees. The fact that they can grow fruit here during the summer is due to the cold winters. Countless ice-cold winters have shaped mountains and fjords throughout the millennia, creating the conditions for everything that happens here, both on the fjord and around the fjord. But the winters today also have an impact on fruit cultivation and on how it looks here in the spring.
Det er kjekt å være fruktdyrker når det er bløming, fordi at det er så fint rundt oss. Og så synes alle andre at det er fint her også.
Det er perfekt grein, men ikke blomstrende.
On Ørlmheim farm, there are 7,000 fruit trees, apples, plums and pears. Actually, it shouldn't be possible to make a living from being a fruit farmer in this area, considering the cold winters, small fields, hilly terrain, and lack of rainfall during the growing season. But the winters that have shaped this land have made the conditions right. This place didn't always look like this. Initially, there was no fjord here, just mountains and water. But then, 2.6 million years ago, winter set in fully. Not just one winter, but 40 to 50 ice ages. Rocks and mountains were crushed to gravel under the pressure of the ice. What began as a small stream became a valley and later a fjord, the power of erosion. The Sognefjord is the most striking evidence of the impact of these ice ages. It cuts 200 kilometers inland. From the top of the mountain to the bottom of the fjord is 3,000 meters. This was all created by ice. As the last ice age came to an end, a new Nordic region emerged. The thickness of the glacier had been up to 3 kilometers. Then, 8,000 years ago, all the ice was gone. But the ice left behind large moraines of gravel, the remains of crushed mountains. It's on such a moraine that Sigrid and Endre's farm is located. The moraine soil is excellent for fruit farming. The mixture of stone and gravel creates natural drainage and preserves the heat in the soil effectively. This is a good starting point, But fruit trees need water. At Elmheim, it doesn't rain much. But again, the cold winter plays an important role in what takes place during the summer. The snow that falls in the mountains during the winter gets trapped by the cold temperatures. Only when spring arrives will it melt. Perfect timing for the growing season down by the fjord. And even before the apples are harvested, a new winter is on its way in the mountains. If the frost arrives too early, it can damage the fruit.
Nå må vi ta plommen, for eplet jo modne, så alt modent på en gang. Vi må få det i hus. Det må ikke bli ødelagt.
So, with lots of help from the rest of the family, Sigrid and Endre start the harvesting. The fruit that is harvested here is a result of the winters that constantly come back and shape this landscape. The fjord water keeps the temperatures mild throughout the entire year, and it actually also helps that the sun shines from above as well as from below.
Godt jobba.
God dagen.
Ja,
Sommerredd i morgen. Så da har du full bil.
full bil her i morgen.
Ja, vi hopper da. Snakkes. Takk skal du ha.
Ha det.
Utatt og plukka.
Ja.
10,000 years after the ice disappeared, Sigrid and Endre can harvest 50 tons of fruit out of the moraine soil this autumn. Plums, apples and pears. A good foundation to keep going. A foundation for life caused by ice. The traces of the ice are obvious near the Sognefjord, but they are also found everywhere in the Nordic region. One of the largest gravel moraines was left by the ice 12 to 13,000 years ago. This moraine ties people in the Nordic countries together in a sort of glaciological community, tighter than most of us are aware of. At this bird sanctuary, west of Bergen in Norway, the gravel moraine ridge has been washed down, but instead forms a large plain that extends into the sea. Here as well, by Hindens Rev in Lake Vänern in Sweden, you can see this moraine. And when the Finns develop the best ski jumpers in the world, it's probably because they've been able to train on the ski hills at Lahti, which lie on the eastern part of the same moraine gravel ridge. This particular moraine did not reach Denmark, but the ice worked on many fronts. Molsbjerge is also a moraine landscape. Here, like many other places in Denmark, the ground consists largely of old, crushed Norwegian and Swedish mountains. As the enormous ice cap over the northern region melted and the weight of the ice disappeared, the land began to rise. Along the Högakusten, or high coast in Sweden, the land has risen 800 meters, and parts of the Nordic region are still rising, approximately a centimeter per year in the inner part of the Gulf of Bothnia. And it will continue to rise for thousands of years. 40 meters of land elevation remains. This will certainly have a large impact throughout the Gulf of Bothnia. Few of us start winter preparations earlier than the alpine plants do. Here, summer is short and winter is never far away. The plants need to adapt, and they have different strategies. Growing big has little purpose here. It's smarter to stay low on the ground and close to the hills. When the snow arrives, it will lie on top and insulate against the most extreme cold. Some plants produce proteins that prevent frost damage. Other plants, like alpine azalea and black crowberry, have thick, wax-coated and slightly inward-curling leaves that are drought-tolerant. They are also evergreens. It's a hard ask, but they get a head start with photosynthesis when the snow disappears in the spring. Some of the plants produce seeds that need the winter cold for good germination. But alpine bistort doesn't take any chances. It makes small clones of its own in case it won't be fertilized before the winter arrives. And it's always important to dress as weather conditions demand. This is something the alpine fleabane has understood. Flowers and trees in lowland zones have more time to prepare for winter, but winter comes here as well. The beautiful autumn colors are the result of the trees extracting all available nutrients from the leaves before they drop, emptying them of green chlorophyll. Without their leaves, the trees have a reduced surface area and thus less danger of drying out. Squirrels also take their preparations for winter seriously. They eat both insects and plants, but in the autumn they prefer to gather food with a good shelf life they can bury in the ground in anticipation of winter. It's just a question of finding the right hiding place. Many species of birds have already migrated south. Those who choose to stay for winter are counting on food that can be stored over time, just like the squirrels. We humans, too, have to cling to life here up north, and we prepare as best we can. We change clothes, stock up on firewood, and mark the roads so we know where they are when the snow comes. Everyone who lives in the Nordic countries has experienced the transition from autumn to winter. And every year, we're given a new and completely unique experience, as here. Darkness, snow, and slippery roads. Winter is a challenge when it comes to traffic. In the Nordic countries, statistics show that most car accidents that involve fatalities occur during the summer. In winter, we drive less at lower speeds and more carefully. Nevertheless, accidents do happen. It all comes down to the tire's contact with the surface of the road. 4 small points the size of the palm of our hand. This is our life insurance, but it's frequently here that problems arise. Because even though we know that winter is coming, we often miscalculate how fast winter creeps up on us.
Det kraftiga snöandet i framförallt landets sydöstra delar har resulterat i svårt väglov på många håll. Många olyckor har inträffat.
Det var flere som ble overrasket over det relativt kraftige første snøfallet denne høsten.
En person ble kjørt på sykehus etter at denne bilen kolliderte i en fjellvegg utenfor Fredrikstad. Veivesenet advarer mot for høy fart på de glatte veiene og anbefaler alle å kjøre forsiktig.
Mika Kuusi is prepared and ready. His job is to test winter tires. Long before you even contemplate changing to these new tires on your car, he is already testing them.
Täällä me tutkitaan, kuinka rengas käyttäytyy kovemmissa vauhdeissa ja kuinka sitä rasitetaan luistossa, kuinka se menee, kuinka se palautuu. Ja tätä me pyritään tekemään, että me saataisiin aina parempia ja parempia tuotteita ja ennen kaikkea, että ne ei tarjoisi mitään yllätyksiä kuluttajalle.
Ivalo, 300 kilometers north of the Arctic Circle, is a mecca for the producers of winter tires. They refer to it as white hell. It's the stable, cold winters that attract tire companies to this place. There are normally more than 200 days each year with degrees below zero. Michelin, Goodyear, and several other companies test their snow tires here. Nokian alone has 20 different testing tracks in this location. A car tire looks simple enough, a rubber ring with grooves engraved into it. But many years of research and development and of advanced calculations lie behind to the design. Designers, engineers, and laboratory technicians are all trying to come up with new ideas, as they have always done.
Meidän oloihimme soveltuva talvirengas onkin sekä tieteellisten tutkimusten että käytännössä suoritettujen kokeilujen tulos. Vertailu nastarenkailla ja kesärenkailla varustetun auton välillä on havainnollinen esimerkki kunnollisten renkaiden merkityksestä talviajossa. Nastat parantavat auton ohjattavuutta, mutta on muistettava, että parhaillakin renkailla jarrutusmatka on talvella aina pitempi kuin kesällä.
Today, Mika is testing the newest tires. He wants a clear path ahead. He's going to drive a 10-kilometer circuit with the new study tires. They have a new rubber blend and slightly different tire pattern. First he tests them on turns, and then the car has to be pressed to a far greater speed. This is not a rally, and it's not about the time, but about how the car behaves when handled.
Tilanne nopeus on tärkeä. Renkaiden kunto, totta kai, se on ainut se elementti, millä se auto siinä tiessä pysyy, että vaikka sulla olisi minkä näköisiä autossa turvajärjestelmiä, jos se ei välity siihen tiehen, niin ei se auto pysty tekemään mitään.
When winter comes, it's important to be prepared. The winter tires Mika is testing today might help you in 2 or 3 years. If you remember to change tires in time, that is. It's winter, and the sun is shining on a kindergarten in southern Norway. But why is it winter and cold when the sun is still high in the sky? Is the sun further away, or does it shine less brightly? The answer to both these last questions is no, and the Earth is actually closest to the sun at this time of year. So what makes winter come? It's the same time of year, but further north. The children playing here have to wait a long while before they'll see the sun again. Longyearbyen, at 78 degrees north, is the northernmost settlement in the world that with a certain legitimacy can call itself a town. Rich coal deposits have provided the basis for extensive mining operations for more than 100 years. The people who live here have learned to live with the weather and with winter.
Mamma som klär på deg, eller klär på deg selv?
Jeg kler på meg selv!
Johannes is getting ready for another day at the Polarflokken kindergarten.
Litt til, opp med haka. Sånn, ja. Sånn.
Det falt nesten.
He has to dress for the weather. Outside it is cold and dark. And even in the middle of the day, it's cold and dark. In fact, they won't see the sun here for several months. For now, they have to make do with artificial floodlights and thick winter clothing. But where is the sun?
I Danmark. Borte. Solen nå I Oslo. Den kommer kanskje I 19. april. For da har jeg bursdag.
One person who always knows where the sun is this man, Fred Sigernes. He's a kind of present-day man of darkness. Fred's work benefits from the winter darkness. When he sets out for work, only a cat track will do. Fred's station is located a few miles outside Longyearbyen, on a mountain plateau 500 meters above sea level. He drives the last stretch of the route with dipped lights for safety's sake.
På vinteren her, fra november til ut februar, så det mørkt på dagen her. Da vi så heldige at vi kan se dagnordlyset på dagen. Og det jo skapt av partikler fra sola som kommer direkte inn I magnetosfæren vår.
Behind locked doors, in an isolated building up in the mountains, far from people, Fred has installed light-sensitive instruments. Through domes on the roof, he has direct access to the sky above. Special cameras capture light activity and color shades hundreds of miles out in the universe. The northern lights can be visible over large parts of the Nordic region. For Fred, the northern lights are a source of information both about conditions in the atmosphere and about activity on the sun. To carry out his research, he must reduce all other light sources as much as possible, including the sunlight. It's the Earth's annual orbit around the sun that causes John's kindergarten and Fred's observatory to end up in total darkness several months every winter. The Earth orbits the Sun, but the Earth also rotates around its own axis like this. If the Earth had rotated this way, the length of the day would have been the same all over the globe all year. But that's not the way it is. The Earth rotates around an axis that is tilted or skewed. Near the equator, the days are roughly the same length throughout the year. It's in the far north and far south on the globe that the days get markedly longer in the summer and shorter in the winter. The North Pole and surrounding areas experience the midnight sun several months every summer. But in the autumn, this part of the globe slides into shadow. The days get shorter and colder, and further north, the sun disappears completely for months. Winter has taken over. The winter darkness helps Fred, and the lack of sun explains the cold. But even where the sun shines, it can be cold. This is due to the angle of the sun's rays. Where the sun shines straight down on Earth, the beam is concentrated on a small area. That is how it is at the equator. But further north and south on the globe, the rays of the sun have a larger area to spread over. Hence, there will be less light and heat per square meter. On Svalbard, it's the moon that gives the most light during the winter. It reflects light from the sun, but so does the snow. A snow surface can send back up to 90% of the energy in the light. This helps make winter, winter. In this way, winter somehow maintains its own existence.
Vi venter på mørketida, og når mørketida kommer, så venter vi på lyset.
When you live in the darkness, the light becomes extra important. That's why many people attend the Light Festival in Longyearbyen, 3 months before the sun returns.
Vil du prøve å holde den? Høyt oppe. Sånn, ja. Bra.
The Earth is closest to the sun at the time when it is winter in the Nordic countries. That it nevertheless is winter and cold is first and foremost because we end up on the side of the globe that is in shadow, where the daylight is short or disappears completely, as it does here on Svalbard. On most days, very few of us actually think about the fact that it is the angle of the axis around which the Earth revolves that determines which jacket we put on. But regardless, when winter comes, we have to dress accordingly. An autumn day in Helsinki offers sunshine and minus 11 degrees Celsius. One can ask, do we dress appropriately here in the Nordic countries? A thermal heat-seeking camera can give us the answer. The more yellow and red in the picture, the more heat loss there is.
Mulla on tällä hetkellä tämmönen kolitsi, pitkähihainen ja sitten on huppari ja tämä takki, farkut ja pitkät kalsarit ja aina yleensä kuljen takki auki. Mua ei palella, vaikka olisi 30, niin mä kuljen ilman hattua.
No mä katsoin aamun lämpömittarin ja sitten päätin, että pitää kyllä laittaa vähän enemmän päälle.
Mulla on farkut ja tämmöiset nilkkurikengät. Sitten mulla on teepaita ja huppari ja anorakki ja tää kaulahuivi ja pippi. Huomasin, että mä pukeuduin vähän liian lämpimälle säälle. Ainakin hanskat olisi voinut ottaa.
And how are you dressed? Silly question, really. In the city, there's usually an opportunity to get warm somewhere. It's completely different when winter comes to you deep in the country. This group has a cold experience coming its way. They're out on their first winter exercise in the vast forests of Lapland. The temperature is minus 20 degrees Celsius. They'll be spending the next few days outdoors. For many of the young people doing national service in the military, this exercise is their first real encounter of winter.
En voi sanoa, että olisin hangessa tarponut paljon yhtään. Laskettelua ja hiihtoa niin sen verran, mitä siinä on, mutta siellä pääsee kaakalle aina, kun tulee kylmä.
The recruits heading out into the winter need equipment. And they need instructions.
Kansainvälisesti ajatellaan sillä tavalla sotilasympäristössä, että jos joukko koulutetaan toimimaan talvella ja taistelemaan talvella, niin se osaa silloin taistella ihan missä vaan.
The training week begins with basic Snowhow. Ansi and the other recruits are introduced to everything from how to move in snow-covered landscapes to the body's energy needs during the winter cold. And they have to learn how to dress. Wool on the inside, white camouflage on the outside. Cross-country skiing is something you learn only by doing. And the weight of the backpacks is something you have to get used to. The troop will be trekking tens of kilometers every single day. But even soldiers need a break. It's important that they don't get completely damp with sweat.
Ja 15 minuutin päästä aloitetaan koulutus. Toimikaa.
Weather conditions could have been worse, but the troop has been infiltrated by an invisible enemy, the cold.
Vähän kylmät jalat ja kädet.
When it's minus 20 degrees Celsius, it's easy to get frostbite.
Kellään sanomalehtiä sillä helposti? Ei.
Good newspapers are worth their weight in gold. With yesterday's news inside their boots, the soldiers hope to keep the cold away for a while yet. Frostbite can be very serious if it's not detected early enough. Anssi looks fine, but he is tired and he's starting to get hungry. Finally, the soldiers are allowed to set up camp. Now it's time to get the kitchen organized. In the woods, they have to start from scratch.
Ei ole ihan hirveän moneen vuoteen tarvinnut nyt tarpoa tällaisessa lumikasassa.
Kenen pukko?
Mun. Ai kohtuu vähän. Niin kuin ei ole 2 metriä.
Niin, no viime
oli
melkein, olikohan joku 90.
Se on kyllä aika paljon.
Se on paljon. Joo.
They don't have to worry about water supplies, but even though the air in Lapland is clean, the instructions are clear. All snow should be boiled.
Montako lusikkaa meni?
Se 10 suurin piirtein.
Hyvä taktiikka, että join ne kaikkein suolaliempiset alta pois.
Pane mausta.
Voitekin tässä monta paljon.
Oi nyt tuli kyllä niin kaunis, että tää sopii siihen onkin.
Food always helps, but camp routines are nowhere near finished. Every night, the troop has to find a place to spend the night. A snow cave provides good protection against the cold. It only takes a few hours to get it ready. Sticks that are 30 centimeters long are stuck into the snow. When they show up inside the snow cave, it's time to stop digging. Anssi has to get to bed early. Major challenges are coming his way during the next few days. Lapland offers a pleasant morning. Only 15 degrees below zero. Anssi is tired after several days in the woods, but he wakes up quickly when he realizes what he has coming his way.
Kohta mennään.
Rauhoittavaa. Hyvin.
Hyvä vaan. Hyvä. Käänny ympäri.
Many people panic if they fall through the ice, but the instructions are clear. Stay in the water until you get over the shock of the cold.
Aika rauhallinen. Hyvä, tule pois. Hienosti menee. Mitä hätää?
Only when they are calm are the soldiers allowed to come back up again. Since they are participating in an exercise, the soldiers have been allowed to attach floating elements to their skis and backpacks. But there are no guarantees that a body will float.
Oletko valmis? Valmis. Ole hyvä. Hyvä. Ja rauhassa. Käänny ympäri. Hyvä reppi tuli. Ja laiva putki sieltä pois. Hyvin menee. No anna, jos se sukki menee justiin, hienosti menee. Loistava. Sitten piikit siihen. Oletko rauhallinen? Ole. Hyvä, nouse ylös. Hieno suoritus, todella hyvä. taistelijapari tykö pudottaa. Löyly nostaa jalakuihin.
Noniin. Ja sit juoksuu. Mene!
It takes some effort to get heat back in your body in 15 Celsius below. But Anssi is very glad he has completed the routine.
Joo, tänään mentiin avantoon tosiaan tässä jään läpi ja se oli kyllä semmoinen shokki, että ei ole aikaisemmin tullut tehtyä. Siinä itse avantoon kun hiihdettiin tosiaan, niin ei se siellä olo ollut paha, mutta kun noustiin ylös ja lähdettiin juoksemaan, niin se oli niinku yhtä jääkalikkaa koko mies. Mutta sitten kun hyvät lämpimät vaatteet ottaa päälle ja vähän ottaa lämpöä, niin kyllä se siitä. Nyt on hyvä olla.
The winter exercise in Lapland is not over, but the soldiers have picked up some Snowhow.
Se kun näistä perustarpeista huolehtii, niin kyllä se pääsee pitkälle sitten. Vettä, ruokaa ja lämpöä. Niitä tässä tarvitaan.
When the Nordic countries had been ice-free for a few thousand years after the last ice age, winter came back with new glaciers. One of the people who knows the glacial history in the Nordic region best is Atle Nesja. He is on his way to Hardangerjökull, Norway's 6th largest glacier as of now. The data Atle Nesja is searching for are important for anyone who wants to understand the climate on our planet. Hardangerjökull rises up 1,860 meters above sea level. It covers an area slightly larger than the country of San Marino. At most, the ice is 350 meters thick. For Nesja and his students, it takes a couple of hours to walk from the railway up to the glacier. Everywhere there are traces of ice. The boulders here are called Glacier erratics, left behind by the glacier about 10,000 years ago. But the glacier they are on their way to is not a remnant of the last ice age. Hardangerjökull was created when the climate got colder again 4,000 to 5,000 years ago, and winter returned. This is the way the researchers believe that the Hardangerjökull evolved and grew. The glacier was at its largest in what has been referred to as the Little Ice Age.
Så nå står vi så å si akkurat på grensa for utbredelsen i 1750. Nå står jeg med høyre foten, har det vært isfritt i 270 år. Mens hvis jeg går 2 skritt fram, så har det vært isfritt i 10 000 år. Over der, og så opp der, og så ned her. Alle tørrskodd over.
In approximately 1750, the Hardangerjökull began to shrink. The glacier has shrunk several times, but it has also increased in size again. The last advance was in the 90s and was caused by heavy precipitation during winter.
litt dypere, kanskje 40 til. Ja, slipper vi disse ned i. Og det var 2,60 meter i vinter. 3,20.
Atle Nesje has made annual measurements at Hardangerjökulen since the 1980s. The data he collects help form the basis for the reports to the United Nations Climate Panel. From 2001 to the present, the rim has receded 247 meters. Here is what the researchers believe will happen in the future. "4,000 years after it was created, the Hardangerjökulen will be gone."
53 meter. Det betyr at fronten har trukket seg tilbake 13 meter i forhold til i fjor på samme tid.
You can trust winter. It comes every autumn, quietly and cold, or with enormous force. However it comes, it intervenes in our lives. Through the ages, winters have worked on the landscape and created a world we have to accept. After 10,000 years here in the Nordic countries, we seem to be close to figuring out how to adapt, but we are still powerless when winter shows its full strength.